Well, hello everybody. Meteorologist Joe Chaffee. Welcome to this Friday night's Joe Chaffee weather show, and what's turned out to be a pretty long week for me. I uh, I almost decided not to do it tonight, if only because of the fact that I've been on the computer all day long. My eyes are starting to bother me a little bit, but I persevered somehow. Walked away from the screen for a little while, and I seem to be okay at the moment. So we've got a ton of stuff going on, starting to put preemptive uh, G- winter storm watches up in the Northeast, and we saw them go up this afternoon. They were up for Sunday. For some places, they're up for Sunday. For many places, they're up for Sunday and Monday. And I would just advise, if you are paying attention to these sorts of things, please make sure when you look at forecast maps, look at the timestamp to make sure that you're seeing is what you're seeing is corresponding to what you're thinking, because uh, I know you're going to have folks that are going to look at some of these snow maps and are going to wonder why we didn't get 20 inches on Sunday if we got 20 inches on there's 20 inches on the map. Well, check the time stamp, because some of them are ending for 7 p.m. Sunday evening. Some of them are ending for Monday morning. Some of them are ending for Monday evening. And some of them are even going into early Tuesday morning. So that's if, when you check out those National Weather Service snow forecast maps, always check the time stamp. And this is a two-part event for many people. There's going to be a lead event Sunday into Sunday night. That is going to produce whatever it produces, and in some places it won't produce much. In others, it will produce something substantial. We'll go over that, and there will also be some possibly some significant icing in parts of Pennsylvania out of this, and we're going to talk about that as well. And then you're going to have the second half when the low develops off the New Jersey coast and only creeps its way out eastward. You're going to see some back edge snow on developing on Monday rather. And one of the complicating features with all of this is a really strong upper low. It is oftentimes that when you get these systems where you're dealing with a strong upper feature, but particularly a closed upper low, that's usually when somebody winds up getting a big surprise. So we're going to be watching for that. Don't ask me where or what the surprise is, because that essentially is part of the surprise. So we're going to get started with the watches and warnings tonight, because they are significant and they continue still to cover a large part of the country. This is such a big travel time with Thanksgiving, and now, of course, going back to wherever folks came from, or perhaps they're coming back home to Long Island or to New Jersey or to Pennsylvania, New York State, or New England. Well, you've got a ton of winter storm warnings up out to the west, from the northern half of Wisconsin and the upper peninsula of Michigan, all across the northern plains into the northern Rockies. Blizzard warnings for a good chunk of western South Dakota and northern Nebraska now, and into southeastern Wyoming. High wind warnings in northeastern Colorado. There, the problem is 50, 60, 70 mile an hour winds blowing 2 feet of snow around. Must be a lot of ground blizzards happening there. And you still have winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories up and down the Rockies and back over into the Sierra Nevadas in California. Although we are seeing a little bit less in the way of activity on the West Coast, but still stormy in and around the area north and south of San Francisco. We've got coastal storm warnings up for that area. In the Northeast, it's winter storm warnings. In west central Pennsylvania, there are winter weather advisories kind of wrapped around that, and then winter storm watches in west central Pennsylvania with winter weather advisories wrapped around it, and then winter storm watches come back again, northeastern Pennsylvania, much of northern New Jersey except the northeast, the Hudson Valley down to Westchester County, right along and north of 287, into Connecticut, the western half of Connecticut, much of Massachusetts, southern Vermont, southern New Hampshire, and just getting into the state of Maine. So it's really it's been quite busy this week surrounding Thanksgiving, and now we're looking at this activity. Of course, it's going to be pushing into the eastern part of the United States. Now, I've got a couple of Weather Service forecast maps, and again, the timestamp here is through 7 p.m. Monday. The bulk of this really falls during Sunday. So we're looking at some areas up to 2/10 and maybe even as much as a quarter of an inch of ice possible in and around Altoona. So I think the worst of it's going to be west of, draw a line from Harrisburg to Williamsport. So west of there looks like where we could wind up getting some significant icing on the order of at least 1 to 2/10 of an inch and maybe even up to a quarter of an inch. Somebody there up in northern West Virginia with a third of an inch being forecast. A little bit less as you go east toward 470, I-476, and that is kind of where the boundary line is in southeastern Pennsylvania with the ice, in regards to where icing is concerned. And then we're seeing the potential for maybe up to 5/100ths or even an isolated tenth of an inch crossing parts of northeast PA into northern New Jersey and northwest New Jersey in particular. The Hudson Valley, it looks like from Putnam County, the southern Putnam, Westchester County line northward, and then much of Connecticut north of I-95. So it is going to be a bit of a problem. And some of that ice also extends up north of Binghamton on the New York side. Binghamton on westward towards Jamestown, and then on up to about I-90 as you get close to Rochester and Buffalo. Generally 5/100ths of an inch or less of ice accumulation here, but nonetheless, it is still there. And again, this is all part of shot number one. And now, as far as snow is concerned, the Weather Service has updated this map because a little while ago it was through 7 a.m. Monday. Now it's through 7 p.m. And they're looking at some rather significant amounts and not too far north and west of New York City, where we're seeing some 2-inch amounts now up around New York City to Bridgeport at 3, and then head up north and west, and you're looking at 6 inches plus in the northwestern counties, 8 inches plus in parts of northeastern Pennsylvania, and then a little further north up the Hudson Valley, up, say, north of Route 84. They've got some 15 and 20-inch amounts showing up in the Catskills, and a large area of up to a foot going back from Utica, bounded by Utica to Binghamton on one side. It goes north of Albany up to about Saratoga on the other, and downstate right around Route 84, so southern Dutchess County, and that also extends into Connecticut, up into northwest Connecticut, into Litchfield County, much of Massachusetts, looking at the possibility of, say, 8 to 12, even though Boston only gets 1. Worcester is forecast for 10, and the Springfield forecast for just about 10. They got 9 there. Pittsfield, Mass at about 11 or 12. So you can see that the snow here is rather extensive, and this is going to be also a long event in that we'll see snow during Sunday here. I don't think you're going to see any real change over to rain. Maybe after the first batch gets done and kind of lightens up a little bit, it'll go to some freezing rain or freezing drizzle, and then it'll start back up as snow after that. We are going to be interesting to see how this plays in both directions, because there's a tenuous amount of cold air around at the moment, and there will be a bit more cold air coming in for late Sunday night and Monday as the big upper low begins to exert its influence, and cold air begins to collapse from the top down, and you get some dynamic cooling underway. You could oftentimes wind up with something significant snow-wise. Satellites starting to look pretty impressive here. A lot of clouds, a lot of high clouds streaming across the Great Lakes and into the Ohio Valley. They're kind of drying up a little bit along the East Coast, and you can see the blocking low to the upper right, just near Newfoundland there, and it's just spinning away. It's not making any real eastward progress, so the block is in place and holding. And now we're watching the storm out in the west, starting to get that signature you see on the satellite loops of something with some solid intensity here, and that is moving on up to the northeast. This is going to continue to move eastward with respect to the low center until it gets toward the lower lakes, and then we're going to watch the primary fall apart and the secondary redevelop. But if you remember yesterday and the day before how we watched the system come in, It goes inland in the mountains, and while the energy is still there, it looks like it gets ripped apart. And then you just wait for it to reorganize when it gets to the other side of the mountain range. And that's what it's doing today, where we've got a 92 low in northwest Colorado. And this is going to be the main low center. And now you're starting to see even the isobars are beginning to take that look of something strengthening and moving on up toward the northeast. You're set up with cold temperatures across the plains, below freezing, 20s to around 30. It's not overly cold, but it's certainly cold enough. And that cold air is back through Iowa and Wisconsin, kind of anchored in, thanks to the big high that is sitting right over James Bay, a 1035 high, squeezing in between here, the storm in the west and the low to the northeast. It's kind of on the edge of this picture here, and the gradient still pretty tight from Newfoundland to Nova Scotia. The gradient has lessened a bit. The winds have come down somewhat in my neck of the woods. It was still pretty windy out there late last night and this morning, but the winds have eased a bit during the afternoon, and we're still going to have enough of a breeze tonight to keep temperatures relatively uniform, but I think we're going to get down into the 20s. I was a little surprised today. We didn't, a lot of models were forecasting low to mid 40s for highs today, and there were a lot of areas near me that barely made it out of the 30s. So I'm just kind of looking at that and thinking, well, what does that mean for tomorrow? And I think that's something we're going to pay close attention to, the high temperatures tomorrow, and see just how good the guidance is with regards to forecast highs. Are going for mid 40s in a lot of areas in eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England. I really have my doubts about it getting that high, particularly if clouds get in. And if the models are baking in an atmosphere that's 3 or 4 degrees too warm, that might make a difference for some folks on Sunday, maybe prolonging a period of snow that changes over eventually to sleet and some rain. For the most part, I'm not overly concerned about that first shot. It's more with the second shot that I think we'll have to pay attention to with the upper low coming up. That I think is the one where you're going to have to watch closely. Nothing on the radar in the east, but you are seeing precipitation now spreading across Iowa, Nebraska, and into South Dakota. So the beginnings of the storm system for the plains and heading up into Minnesota as well. We've got some rain showers in southern Illinois, and the warmer air is going to be on the eastern side of this and extending southeastward into the Ohio Valley. And of course, you still have a lot of activity going on back up the Rockies from New Mexico northwest all the way up into Montana. Some showers scattered around in California, but the widespread activity from a day or two ago, that at least has calmed down. And again, here's a quick look at what's going on with the lead precip that's running up to the northeast. It's going to be interesting here how this plays out overall. I'm going to go back to the forecast snow map because I want to just show a little bit more geography here. Again, through 7 p.m., you see the extent of the snows getting into the southern half of Maine at least, and through Vermont, New Hampshire, and upstate New York. Now, as this all leads into the weekend system for the east, you're getting some big snow amounts showing up into northern Wisconsin and Michigan, back over through Minnesota. The amounts tail off in Iowa and in southern Nebraska, but in northern Nebraska, we're seeing some big numbers, also some big numbers in parts of southwestern South Dakota, into Wyoming and Montana, where we got those blizzard warnings in play. And in Colorado, there's a bit of a snow hole, and you mentioned this, a bit of a snow hole, but there's still some light snows and some going on in and around Denver, forecast to get west of Denver, 4 or more, and you can see some of the amounts go up in the mountains up to the west of the Mile High City. But the big issue here is wind. I'm going to see if I can pull up some wind gusts. Snows extend down into Arizona with some fairly decent amounts at a few of the higher mountain peaks. And of course, it's been snowing forever in the Sierra Nevadas lately. And this is what's forecast through Monday, where eventually this is going to ease, obviously, as the system from the west pulls out. But you got a 67 print here. I don't know what that spot is. that is printing out a 67 on the map. But that I wonder if that's the highest number I've seen in the last few years since I started using this. But some very big amounts. The yellows are 36 inches or more, and they run all the way up and down the eastern part of the state. And you also see some big amounts in the mountain ranges that are to the west. Yes, to the west, west of I-5. Some big snow amounts showing up there as well, and extending on up into Oregon and Washington and Idaho. So just this storm has been, when it's all said and done, this particular week out here for some areas will be among the snowiest weeks of the whole winter. I bet when you look back on it, it is indeed. I think it was really very impressive, the events that we saw that went on this week. Now I'm going to run through a couple of WPC maps. By the way, here's the 7 p.m. temps. I was just looking at them. They're all down in the mid 30s now, low 30s, and even 20s as you move up into upstate New York. That colder air is going to drip. This is cold air that's dripping southward. I mean, literally just kind of bleeding its way southward with the high where it is. If we had a little bit more of an Arctic push, maybe if this were 2 weeks from now, where if you seasonally adjust everything, in 2 weeks, the average temperatures are down another 4 or 5 degrees. That would have made a huge difference for snow in areas, in downstate areas of New York, down along the coast in Long Island and New Jersey, and maybe even down into southeastern Pennsylvania, Delaware, and Maryland. It's not to say that it still can't happen down there. I'm just saying that the extra 2 weeks' time with the blocking pattern in the middle of December like this probably would have made for a much more robust snow outcome for the coastal areas where you just might miss out. I would just be cautious because of the fact that we're dealing with, whenever you're dealing with an upper low, it can be problematic. Upper lows, as I said early on, have a tendency to surprise. Now, WPC, the Weather Prediction Center, this is the probability of snow, and you get these 6-hour increments here of probability, and going into actually I'm just going to take a 24-hour period, might work better. So let's go to 0Z on the 2nd. So this will cover the whole 24-hour period here from 0Z, so tomorrow night, from 7 o'clock tomorrow night to 7 o'clock Sunday. And this is the probability. We're going to do it. Let's do at least 2 inches. And you can see that the yellow is between 5 and 10%. So you really don't get into the 20 and 30% numbers here, according to WPC, until you get up a little bit further north in the Hudson Valley. Again, this is right up until Sunday evening. Now, if we push that along, and let's go to the 24-hour period ending. This is from from Sunday night to Monday night, and we'll do the probability of at least 2. You start to see the blues come down almost to about New York City. So that's a 40% chance of at least 2 inches getting down to about New York City, and about a 20% chance in western Long Island. And in the red area, of course, you're seeing a 90% chance of at least 2 inches. Now I'm going to show you that. I'll just jump right up to the probability of a foot. This isn't too shabby, with some areas showing 15 to 20% probability of at least 12 inches. And we're talking about a good 60 to 72 hours out here. So that's actually a fairly high number that's up in the Catskills and up at points further north. And even if some put up the 18 inch, there's actually between a 1 and 5% chance of at least 18 inches in those 2 little stripes that you see. Well, there they go. Again, this is for Sunday night into Monday night. So there might even be a short period after that where we're talking about a little bit of snow. And the WPC, in terms of liquid precipitation amounts here, showing every bit of 1.5 inches of melted liquid down near the coast, and 1.25 inches to 1.5 inches, and even some pockets of 2 inches of precip. And this is for the 3-day period ending Monday evening, going up into southern and central New England and through a good chunk of upstate New York, and then going back through Pennsylvania. You're also seeing some relatively high melted liquid amounts. It's going to be really interesting to see how it plays. Also, notice big precip amounts still going on in California with 5 inches plus in the mountains. So no wonder you're seeing that 67 inches wherever that point happened to be. So gonna jump to, let's take a look. I want to take a look at the upper air, because that really is the part of this that's intriguing me to a large extent. And it's really been all about the block, of course, and then you've got the upper low to the west, splits in two. Part of it pulls back, rotates back westward in Washington State, and you see it starts to drop southward, so more energy comes into California over the weekend, and then the upper low shoots to the east. We've mentioned for a long time how it's blocked from moving northeastward toward the Great Lakes and then on up into Canada. And if there was any doubt of that, look at this northwest flow that we're seeing. This is Saturday night. You're still getting a northwest flow out of Canada across New England to about New York City, and that's significant. I think the block is actually a little bit stronger than what's been modeled, and I want to just hold on to that thought, because that really is going to impact the track of this upper low, which I think is ultimately going to be the most important thing regarding the outcome of this particular event. And of course, now you're seeing that upper low getting pushed east and then southeast down into Ohio and West Virginia as we move into Monday. It actually moves off the Virginia coast Monday afternoon and tracks just southeast of New Jersey to about Cape Cod Monday night and early Tuesday morning, where it sits there during the overnight. So, excuse me, this is where I think you have to be really careful, because if you wind up with a tightly developed surface low in a situation like this with an upper low this vigorous, what you could wind up having is an area that's to the northwest of the track of the upper low, where you could see some rather intense precip. I don't know that the models are handling this well. That's a really vigorous upper low. I want to respect that. And the surface low could wind up getting stacked underneath it. We could see this all go vertical. At least that's what some models are showing. You get a situation like that. I discussed this with Bill Goodman earlier today from the National Weather Service in Upton here on Long Island, covering the northern New Jersey to southern New England and Long Island, Hudson Valley area, and includes New York City. This could be one of those situations where you get a little bit of a comma head of precip. You get under that, and you could wind up. That could be where the surprise happens. This would be for later Monday into Monday night. And of course, with this deep upper feature, you're seeing with that the collapse of some cold air, especially aloft. And that's another thing that's kind of bugging me about this, is the fact that the air aloft is cold, and it's going to translate down into the surface. Now here it is on Sunday morning, that zero line, which is the 32-degree line in central New Jersey, northeastern PA. So south and west of there, that's where, especially in Pennsylvania, where we're talking about the potential for some icing. So the low-level temperatures are going to have a problem. And you can see, by the way, if you look out to the west, you look at the darker blues showing us the colder air we're looking at the 5,000 foot level. When you see it makes this curl, this comma, sort of a comma, I guess a backwards comma, but that's the circulation. That's the cold air being drawn southward. The upper low is somewhere in here, underneath the low at 5,000 feet, but you've got the upper low there. So once that gets far enough east, you're going to be draining cold air down the Hudson Valley and into the coastal areas. This is Monday morning, where the zero line is somewhere cutting New Jersey in half from north to south. And then by Monday afternoon, the zero line is moving across Long Island. So every place west of there at that level is below freezing. And that's where you would probably see, if you've got precip going on, you're talking about rain changing to snow. And your surface low, for me, if you for a snow lover, ideally, you'd like to see it a little bit further south than this for the coastal areas, but it is going to be impacting the inland areas for sure in this position. And it takes all night. It's still near Cape Cod or southeast of Nantucket. This is Tuesday morning, so you've got a very very slow moving system here, and if you can rev up some precip, you could, and with the upper low, this is where you could wind up with a bit of a surprise. So I'll just get the surface. We'll go back to the radar, and the thing is, I'm kind of at the point where you just get tired of looking at all these models and starting to, spend time looking for shifts up and down. We kind of know where this is all going. So really at this point, it's just sort of track and see what happens. And here we are Sunday morning on the GFS. European is about the same. Maybe I think it's a little bit colder than the GFS. Oddly enough, the European is usually the warmer of the models, and the GFS is colder. And in this case, it's reversed. The GFS is warmer. The European and the NAM are mostly colder. You get precip coming in. You see it expand up through upstate New York by 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It's moved up into southern Vermont and western Massachusetts. You get that change over to ice and rain down near the coast, but then it just kind of stops until we get into Monday morning, and then it picks up again. Now, this particular run on the GFS didn't really show very much in the way of snow. One of the back runs of the NAM, for example, was a bit more impressive with the back ends, and even a bit more impressive with the front end during Sunday morning. That's a pretty solid burst of snow it's showing for a couple of hours coming through New Jersey and Long Island. That change over to sleet, then it kind of piddles away, and now you get the backside stuff with the low developing here, a 989 low south of Montauk Monday night into Tuesday morning. The interesting thing about the NAM and the European is that they are also, not only are they colder, but they are also a little bit slower, and maybe the low is kind of lined up a little bit further south by about 30 or 40 miles than the GFS is. So that might be an important 30 to 40 miles for somebody. But I think judging from the upper air, the look that I'm seeing on the NAM, the upper low is a little bit south and east and kind of matches up with the European. And you see it's actually still moving southeastward here between 60 and 84 hours. The upper low is just beginning to make bottom out east of Virginia offshore and about to take that turn up to the northeast. So watch this closely over the developments over the weekend. We're going to watch the temperature profiles tomorrow to see if they wind up going as high as guidance is indicating, or are they going to finish a little bit lower? And then we'll watch and see what plays out for Sunday. Remember, it's in two parts. The first part will be snow to ice to rain for most, but not all. Away from the coast going up the Hudson Valley and into New England, it's going to be mostly snow. Then you catch a bit of a break, and then you wait for the upper low to come in, and the secondary surface low begins to develop, and that takes hold for during the day Monday night into early Tuesday morning. So what are we going to do if we go to the Weather Service office pages and look at forecast snow maps? Check the timestamp. Okay, make sure you check the timestamp. Okay, I'm on the chat board with you folks now with 163 on board. So I guess there were 165 on board. So not necessarily everybody is doing shopping on this Black Friday. Euro, NAM, Canadian. Interesting thing, Fyodor Ledkovsky, about the interesting thing about the Canadian is that the Canadian has been remarkably consistent for days now. It really hasn't varied that much in terms of what it's been showing, with a low moving offshore southern New Jersey, and has held on to a much colder look for coastal areas. It'll be interesting to see if it winds up being closer to the truth. All the models are kind of around the same spots. They're not that far off. It's just getting down to the point where a small number of miles is going to have some impact here. One overhype for this storm has a map saying 0 to 60 inches overlaid on Alabama through Maine. David Schwartz. That has to be that has to be a joke. I mean, obviously that's got to be a joke, but some people have nothing better else to do. I don't know. Whatever works. Hello, Governor Chaffee. It's an honor to join you tonight, Your Honor. Whatever works says. Thank you. I don't know why I've been appointed the governor because I really don't want to be. Just so you know. And Junior's on tonight. Ed Ferrante. Junior, nice to see you, pal. Hope you had a great Easter. And you got a good Easter week. Great Easter. A great Thanksgiving. Brother, am I tired, okay? Alfred Phillips, welcome from the North Slope of Alaska there. Siberia super minus temperatures. I am absolutely sure of that. And plus, I think you're in darkness now for the next couple of months. You get your first sunrise when? Sometime late January or very beginning of February, where it's up for, 3 minutes? But it will come. It's always come before. So it will come this time around as well. The Snow Weenie, Scott Briller, only 2 Octobers. There have only been 2 October, November, Decembers with no measurable snow since 1869. Yeah, that doesn't happen too often. We had, what do we have? So for it's trace for November. Did they have a trace in October? I can't even recall. No, New York might not even have had a trace. I've had a trace. I've seen snow a couple of times here. Look, you gotta think that in a situation like this, with the kind of November where we've had, where temperatures have averaged about 5 degrees below normal, that holds on into the month of December. We're gonna put some snow down eventually. I happen to think that we're gonna see something. For sure on Monday, and I think we might even have a chance to put down a quick burst of a coating to an inch Sunday morning, depending on how the radar lines up. But I think the system for Monday has the potential, obviously, to produce more. Ruthless Goat got his vehicle out of the garage. It's been there since Sunday. By the way, I did put, you asked for the WPC surface map link, the interactive surface map. It's got a calendar in the upper right corner that you can go back. You can go back quite a ways on that into the 1980s, I believe. But check out. I put the link up for you. I messaged you on Patreon, Ruthless, so you can go have fun with that map. That's a lot of fun. Okay, you got it. That's terrific. What model do you think will be correct with the Sunday through Tuesday morning storm? Asked Matthew Warman. Well, I going to lean. When I'm looking through all of this, the European and the NAM to me have the look that makes the most sense, given the strength of that upper low. I don't know why the GFS is warmer than the European and the NAM. Usually it winds up that in a lot of cases it's colder. I'm not sure. The GFS, this is the first time going into winter since they did the upgrade, so whether they had to fix the upgrade. So we'll see. I'm betting that the European comes closer and that the NAM does pretty well. That's my guess. And hey, if those two wind up doing well, then it really falls back to the Canadian, which has been as I said, has been consistent with this look for many days now. 358 Bobcat, looking forward to heavy snow in the Catskills. Wyndham, I'll be there Saturday to Monday, driving back to New Jersey for work Monday morning in your Jeep. I think you're going to get it up there for sure. No question. Alfred Phillips, you get daylight 3 hours a day. Oh, that's not so bad. 3 hours is an awfully short day. Though you get kind of the sun comes up, maybe gets over the horizon a bit for a short time and then starts to drop back down. I don't know. That's that's kind of tough for me. I need a little bit more daylight than 3 hours. Thomas Giovanello, I think this could be like the March 20th storm in 2018. I think you're referring to the fourth nor'easter, the one that as somebody I know said, was that I didn't get to see because I was stuck in Westchester County, where we didn't get hardly as much. But on Long Island, that's when it was, quote, puking snow at 4 to 5 inches an hour. Yeah, I didn't see that. I was not happy. Okay, I saw it the next day when I got home. What had accumulated on the ground. I don't know. We'll see. Upper lows can surprise. Somebody's going to get a surprise out of this. I don't know who and I don't know where, but that upper low is going to orchestrate a surprise. And Javon Perry, a foot for you. So you're west of Boston. So yeah, I mean, you should get at least 8, I would think. I mean, sometimes when I see these numbers, I get a little scary with topside. I've never been good with picking out topside numbers, but yeah, I suppose 8 to 12 where you are west of Boston, you should do pretty well and enjoy it. Hey, who knows? You get a big event this time of year. It's always possible that this is the biggest snow event of the entire winter. Steve Lapointe, thank you for hitting Super Chat. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much. You were very generous last night, and you're generous again tonight, and I do appreciate it greatly. That's a little bit of cigar time that I'm going to take after I'm done with the live stream. Bill Uber, I hope it snows 6 inches or more here so it locks down the leaves. Tired of getting everyone else's leaves. Yeah, I hear you. I'm kind of in the same situation because the way the wind blows and how my house is set, I get all the leaves from all my neighbors' yards that just fall into my backyard. So I wind up bagging about 160 bags of leaves every year. And I think I've gotten about 130 done, so I have another 40 to go. I just want it over with. Look up the upper low, March 21st, 1968, across Memphis, Tennessee. Thunder and 15 inches of wet snow. I remember it well. There's a separate site where you can look at the upper air. I got it bookmarked someplace. I don't remember where it is. Joe Rayo gave it to me. I got to find it. It's somewhere in my bookmarks. But I will definitely go ahead and take a look. And you can get the surface maps. The ones you can only go back so far on that particular website, on WPC's website. But if you go to this other one, you can go back, way back. Okay, they've kind of pieced together maps going back into the early 1900s. They kind of figured out what the upper air looked like off of that. So I got to find that link too. David Silverstein, I used to live in Northern California and moved back east to Putney, Vermont a week ago. The snow was following me back. Thanks for my heart. Thank you very much. Really appreciate the kind words. All right, look, I'm getting some warning here. I could be getting ready to lose my internet signal, which I did earlier today. So I'm going to end it here at this point. So thanks very much for being here. There's a lot of extra weather coverage. I did 2 extra videos for Patreon members today, and they're on there, including one from with Bill Goodman. Joe Ferranda, thanks for hitting Super Chat. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Parts of Nassau should. Yeah, I think there's going to be. I think Long Island's going to get some snow out of this. I think it will, particularly on Monday for the second half. I don't know about the first shot on Sunday, but I think for Monday, Long Island's going to see something. And again, that upper low is going to be key. So, guys, thank you. Bill Hubert, thanks for hitting Super Chat tonight, too. Everybody's coming in now. Really appreciate it. Just as I'm saying goodbye. And I am going to say goodbye because I got to take a break here. I'm really tired. It's been a long day. So, here's the deal for tomorrow. I'm going to play it by ear. If it looks like, things are the same, since I'm doing the live stream on Sunday morning, Coffee with Chaffee on Sunday morning, that we're doing at 10 o'clock Eastern time. So we'll have a lot going on at that point. So I'm going to see how I feel tomorrow. If I'm, feeling a little bit burned out, I'll take a step back and not do the live stream. But just keep an eye on the schedules. I put the notifications out for the Patreon members on the Patreon platform, and YouTube always sends theirs out. Videos just for you. Thank you for hitting Super Chat tonight. Happy Thanksgiving, by the way, to everybody here. If you weren't on yesterday or you're celebrating, some folks, they do multiple Thanksgiving days because of, the size of their families. They might do Thanksgiving on one day with one group of people and Thanksgiving on another day with another group of people. So we make it one long weekend. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. And if you are going Christmas shopping, by the way, please do it safely. And you know, gets crazy out there at some of these stores. I haven't been paying attention to the news about the annual, who got stepped on over a TV set at some department store. I hate hearing about that stuff. But by all means, travel safely. There's crazy people that drive. Travel safely, and take your time to get to wherever it is you got to go. You can get there safely, so you get there a couple of minutes late. Get there safely. Okay, so look, have a great evening. Watch for website posts. Patreon members, you got your stuff coming as well. Extra videos, etc., etc. And we will see you, if not tomorrow night, we will definitely see you on Sunday morning on the Coffee with Chaffee show at 10 o'clock Eastern Time.